Welcome to the first episode of Reddit Stories of Gaming. I'll give a brief intro since this is the first episode. There are a lot of Reddit reading YouTube videos out there, but RSG will focus very specifically on stories related to gaming, whether it's specific games, consoles, or, even those stories where I need to tell a Karen that I don't actually work at GameStop simply because I have a basket full of Funkos. So today, we go to AskReddit, where we ask the question, what is your best D&D story? This story comes from Borsellino Gentlesir. I was a DM for my first and only Dungeons & Dragons game. I, of course, had no idea what I was doing, and not being bothered by official campaigns, I decided to create a short branching story using the provided map for reference. We mostly winged it. Started with a package being delivered by caravan on a country road. Two players decided to be the raiders, the other decided to be a monk who had hitched a ride with the caravan. One thing led to another, and the ragtag group stole and then finished delivering the package, which was an artifact that housed the soul of a dead god. The owner of the package turns out to be an evil necromancer. They thwarted the necromancer, and in a beautiful turn of events, one decided to attempt to finish off the dead god and proceeded to smash the artifact against the ground, which released the soul and brought upon an apocalypse. Sorry, almost done. Brought about an apocalypse. I was proud. I will say I'm pretty proud of that too. If you can, at a level 1, just break an object and bring an end to an entire civilization, job well done. Now, they didn't say they were level 1, but it's a lot more funny to imagine a level 1 just unleashed a god for no reason. The next comment comes from Major Trump. My first campaign ever, we had a party of about 6 people, one of whom was playing a Minotaur. He was incredibly strong, but very dull and clumsy. We were in a battle near a chasm against a mage who cast a fiery explosion that blinded the rest of our party, but not the Minotaur, because on his previous turn he headbutted an enemy, but he fell flat on his face with his dexterity check. So one of our blinded mages managed to kill that mage and the last remnants of his minions. Our next step was to try and cross the chasm to get to a small town where we could restore everyone's vision. Unfortunately, a rickety bridge was the only way across. There was a sign at the edge of the chasm by the entrance to the bridge that seemed to be important. Unfortunately, because everyone was blinded, our thick-headed Minotaur had to read it. He rolled a natural 1. Our DM said, you failed to read the sign. The attempt itself makes you very dizzy. Roll for dexterity check. He rolled another natural 1 and fell into the chasm. I have to make notes on these kind of effects for rolling natural 1s consecutively. Something about our Roll20 module, when we play Dungeons & Dragons, always has them rolling 1s, and this gives me some ideas. The next comment comes from Night Thunder. Now, before I read this one, I'm just going to make a little side note here. My group in Dungeons & Dragons just recently fought a Death Tyrant, which is basically an undead beholder. Now, I'm afraid of reading this story because it may give them some ideas, but it's pretty funny, so I'm going to read it anyways. I'm playing with my first D&D group right now, and we recently made our way into an underground cave. We were in trouble as we had one boss hot on our heels, but we had found the room we were looking for that had a really powerful armor and a mace. The only problem was it was guarded by a spectator. Now, being the cleric, I tried to talk them out of fighting it, but they outnumbered me, so we got ready to fight. A few turns in, I'm already worried because this is going south fast. I decided to cast blindness on it, which usually isn't a great spell because it's easy to break and most creatures can overcome it. But I'm desperate and I really want to know what'll happen when you blind a giant eyeball. I cast the spell, roll the dice, and it's effective. Then the spectator disappears. We're now freaking out. Sure, this is a super powerful attack tactic. We grab the magical items and stand in the very intense defensive circle, waiting for it to come back. It never did. Turns out when you cast blindness on a giant eyeball, it automatically thinks the battle is over and just sort of leaves existence. And that's how I, a first-time level 3 cleric, defeated a boss with a first level spell. Now, it is in some of the rules where if you do cast blindness on like a beholder or something like that, it does basically think, I can't see anything, I can't do my job, and kind of just disappears. It vanishes from the plane of existence. So it's pretty impressive that it worked on the spectator in this, and now I'm afraid that my party's going to want to do the same thing. The next comment is from TMickey D. This was during a Pathfinder campaign. I was playing a level 5 half-elf ranger. We were heading to a town because plot, but when we got there, a large ice wyvern was wrecking the place, and also because, well, plot. I, being the smart nature-loving guy that I am, was able to determine that this ice wyvern was weak to fire damage, so I dipped my arrows in lamp oil and lit them on fire before shooting them at the wyvern. We were getting our asses handed to us. The wyvern was much stronger than anything we had faced beforehand. Our DM knew this, so he hid a few barrels of gunpowder in a building for us to find and use in the battle. Our druid ran into one of the buildings and saw the gunpowder. The only problem is, in this world, gunpowder was not a widely known about invention. It was only just getting started in this tiny village. There was a note next to the barrels that said, "Caution, highly flammable, keep away from fire." The druid sees that I'm shooting flame arrows and comes up with a bright idea. The wyvern was directly outside the house he was in, so he opened a window and rolled the barrel directly under the wyvern's legs. He then shouts to me, "Shoot it!" Note, he's only 5 feet away from the barrel at this time. At this point, I pause the game. And now this is a conversation between OP and the DM. Wait, my character has no idea what this barrel is, correct? Yes, that is true. So my character has no idea what this will do, and all he notices is a big barrel getting rolled out a window with a familiar voice yelling at me to shoot it? Yeah, that is correct. The druid doesn't know what's about to happen either, right? He has an idea, but he doesn't know how much danger he's in. Okay then. To avoid metagaming, I immediately shoot a flaming arrow at the barrel. The shot hit the barrel, which then exploded. Our GM decided that the barrel will deal 10d6 damage, and that the size of the explosion will be dependent on the amount of damage that was done. I rolled the d6s, managed to get 7 6s, a 5, and 2 3s for a total of 53 fire damage. We were level 5, so this is huge. The explosion turned out to be massive. Since the ice wyvern was weak to fire, it took double damage. The dragon got completely blown apart, sending body parts flying. The house the druid was hiding in was also completely demolished. The druid and his familiar were both blown into the wreckage and unconscious. There was also severe damage to many buildings in the town. The town that we just tried to save is now completely in shambles. Quite a few villagers were dead or dying. We basically nuked this peaceful village. R.I.P. little town. I'm so sorry. This top comment to that post, I think, is exactly what I was thinking. You didn't metagame, and you solved their dragon problem. Sounds like a good session to me. I have to say, the inability to know kind of what the consequences of your actions were is definitely pretty hilarious. So I'm going to give one of my stories here, and it's still one of my favorite stories. So this was back a few years ago when we were actually playing DnD 3.5. I want to say now it's been about 10 years. And we were in a campaign, and I was playing a monk. Her name was Iburami. And our group had gone into a cave. And we had these giant bat creatures with stingers. I believe they were sturges, were attacking us. And there were quite a few of them, and they kind of came up from the bottoms of this chasm inside of the cave. And I was kind of near the edge of the cliff, as I've typically gone melee as a monk to try and protect the group. I was kind of the pseudo tank. And so I went up there. There's 3 of them that came up, and I proceeded to punch them. They didn't get a turn yet. I was higher in initiative. And then after me was my friend who was a wizard. And this was still somewhat early-ish level. Sturges are low level. But he managed to put, out of the 3 of them that was attacking, he managed to put like 2 of them to sleep. Well, I didn't realize what spell it was. Correction, I knew what spell it was. My character did not. She failed her Arcana check in order to figure out what was happening. So in her mind, she thought, oh, my friend is holding them in place so I can punch them easier. So I proceeded to punch it and basically wake it up out of its sleep. Proceeded on the next round to get stabbed by 3 stingers, 2 of which rolled a natural 20, and my character died. Because I couldn't leave the sleeping creature alone. Just my own stupidity. Well, my character's stupidity just got the best of her, and she didn't know what spell was being cast. I couldn't metagame it, so I ended up causing my own character's demise. My DM actually found it so funny at the time that in a later session, after I had re-rolled and played a new character, he brought her back as a vampire and became the big bad that we were facing in one of the adventures that we had. So we basically had to fight my character that was stupid, and she came back as a vampire many levels later to just attack us and try to take us out. And of course, the first thing we tried to do is see if she was still stupid and tried the whole, hey, look over there. And when the DM plays her, she wasn't that stupid. This next one is by TMickey. Now, this one is a little bit of a long one, but it's pretty good, so get ready for the ride. First time playing as a group, we're on a classic Save the Princess quest against a hyper-intelligent orc, or kobold, or something, who was supposed to eventually be our arch-nemesis for a pretty long campaign. I am playing a chaotic neutral mage, pretty much the standard out-for-myself-only character. We, being new players, were super broke, crap weapons, hardly any armor. We end up going to a cave where we know the princess is being held. The very first room, our DM is setting the mood. Torches. Footprints in the dust. A golden sarcophagus in the corner. As he is talking, I raise my hand, and he stopped and looked at me expectantly. Is the sarcophagus golden or gold? Really? Whatever, it's gold. Anyways, there is an exit tour. How much do you think the sarcophagus weighs? I don't know, like a couple thousand pounds? Why? I ask around what everyone's max carry weight is. We can carry it. We took the gold sarcophagus and abandoned the quest. Good guy DM didn't want to backtrack, so he allowed it. But the town we went back to was so poor to know what to do with thousands of pounds of gold. Since we couldn't spend it, we bought the town and imported the best craftsmen from other towns. Eventually, like 5 weeks later, we go to the cave, decked out in literally the best armor money can buy. Pretty sure the princess was super dead by then. We played a few more games, but since we were newbies, we didn't really like the classes we originally picked, so we re-rolled. GM was a champ and allowed it, but he kept the characters we abandoned. Our next session was like 100 years later in the same world, playing a chaotic neutral halfling rogue this time, still a turd. We start in a massive city about to be sacked by an uber-powerful necromancer and his undead orc army. Being a total ass, I go over the wall and start turbo-looting the dead bodies outside the wall from the previous skirmishes. The rest of the party has learned to just ignore me by now, but the DM sees an opportunity to get his revenge. He lets me find all this super epic loot, tells me to roll a perception check. Fail. Continue turbo looting and eventually hear noises. I turn around and see the army, and at the head of it is the necromancer. It was my old mage from the previous game. Turns out he never became less of an asshat. I didn't notice the enemy army until they were within bow range, preventing me from going in the gate or climbing the wall. So I do the only thing I can think of. I tell the DM I want to roll to hide. He laughs at me because I'm on the battlefield with nowhere to hide. I rolled a natural 20. Ends the session by graphically describing my halfling rogue entering the anus of the corpse of an especially large orc. TLDR, botched DM's campaign, but Epic DM made the best of it by making me play Hyde the Halfling in an orc's anus. Being a Star Wars fan, I love this comment by Agravaria, and I thought they smelled bad on the outside. And that was the first episode of Reddit Stories of Gaming. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please make sure that if you did, give us a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and I will be planning to put these out every week. So make sure you look out for more Reddit Stories of Gaming. Take care, guys.